Dreams and nightmares!
Tracy shuddered and woke up. The dream was so real she had to reorient herself. Yes, she was home, in bed. Next to her, snoring softly, was her husband Dan sleeping. The clock read 1:26 a.m. She leaned back in her chair, sighed, closed her eyes, and sank into her dreams. In her vision, she met her office intern, Ashton, in the hotel bar. He was 12 years younger, handsome, and available. They drank, laughed, flirted, and touched each other. She was wearing a short dress with a deep neckline, bare legs and no panties or bra to cover her young lover's most intimate parts. The scene changed. They were in a hotel room. She in exquisite lingerie, and he, naked, lay on the bed, fully aroused, burning with lust. They merged in deep, loving kisses, caressing, exploring, and fighting for control. She took him deep into her mouth, and he licked her so thoroughly that her orgasm robbed her of her strength. They fucked madly, in every position, in every corner of the room. In the hot tub, she bent over the desk, he in the soft chair, letting her bring herself to one long orgasm. Tracy lay in the dark, wet with her fantasies, and ran her fingers over them, wondering if she should make this dream a reality. In her 39 years, having been married to Dan for 15 years, she wasn't unhappy, but she was restless. 2 wonderful children and a husband who truly cared for her made her question her own motivation. Ashton was sexy, but he was a kid. Everything that happened to him was purely physical, nothing more. She listened to Dan's breathing. It annoyed her. Lately, almost everything he did annoyed her. The way he drove, played with the kids, tidied up his closet, held her hand, planned dates. None of the things he did, she didn't like. Dan was attentive, kind, and truly loved his wife. For some reason, that bothered Tracy more than anything else.
Maybe,
she thought, I deserve to hang out with Ashton. She drifted back into sleep. The completion of the second dream snapped her out of her slumber. She was shivering. The clock read 3:09 a.m. The second dream was very different. She saw Dan's face contorted with pain and confusion. He was standing in the hotel room. Tears stood in his eyes as he tried to realize her betrayal. Overwhelmed, she tried to speak, but the words wouldn't come from her tongue. With slumped shoulders, stunned by her infidelity, he said with pain in his voice, "Who are you, Tracy? What have I done to deserve such duplicity?" Her lips again refused to utter any words. As he left, Dan grabbed Ashton by the hair and dragged him naked out into the hallway. Before the door slammed shut, he turned around and said with disgust in his eyes, "Don't come home. You don't live with us anymore." Then she heard someone's fist smash into her jaw, and then another and another. She couldn't bring herself to open the door, but it was clear to her what had happened. In her second vision, she saw Dan and their children, Lucy and Michael, crying and trying to explain why Mom didn't live here anymore. At 13 and 11, they were old enough to understand what infidelity was. They hugged Dan, trying to comfort their grief-stricken father. Then she saw her parents looking at her with deep disappointment and pain. It took her much longer to doze off. At 5:17 a.m., she awoke, now in a cold sweat. In her last dream of the night, she saw herself watching the celebration from afar. It was a wedding. Everyone was joyous. When her vision cleared, she saw an older version of Lucy in a gorgeous white dress, cradling her handsome groom, tall and proud. A family picture was taken. Dan, his parents, Mom and Dad Tracy, and Michael. But who was this stunning woman holding Dan's hand? A closer look revealed wedding rings on their fingers. As she watched the photographer taking pictures, she heard Lucy say, "Thank you so much to my dad and Mom for an amazing wedding." Her selfish choice to have a lover, despite having a wonderful husband and family, had left her alone, apart, with no one to blame but herself. Tracy got up, showered, dressed, and headed to work. By 9 a.m., Ashton had been transferred to a new department in their office on the other side of town. She made arrangements with her parents to pick up the kids. Returning home early to get ready, she was lying on their bed in the most revealing lingerie she could find when Dan walked in the door. That's how her dreams had saved her. The end.